5-Minute Pearls for Clinical Practice. Today's pearl is called It's Not About You. Hello, this is Dr. Brian Morris, and this is 5-Minute Pearls for Clinical Practice, where you will learn the tools to provide exceptional care for your patients. This is the weekly podcast where you will be introduced to time-tested, evidence-based patient care strategies that aren't always taught in schools or training programs, but are nonetheless crucial for success in clinical practice. This week's pearl is called It's Not About You. Before I get to this week's clinical pearl, have you been practicing the pearls covered in prior podcasts? We've covered a lot of material up until this point, and hopefully you're finding this information interesting and clinically relevant to patient care. Some of these pearls address specific healthcare issues, such as weight loss, but other pearls focus on our mindset as we meet with patients. This week's pearl falls into the latter category. When we practice clinical care, we get to know our patients very well. We are privileged to get to know a lot about the personal lives and the family lives of our patients. In some ways, we actually become a part of each patient's extended family. And just as we learn a lot about our patients, inevitably our patients learn a lot about us as well. Some clinicians resist sharing information about ourselves with patients, but after 20 years of clinical practice, I've concluded that sharing personal information with patients is almost inevitable and can sometimes actually help establish trust and connection with our patients. For example, sharing your personal experiences with exercise and nutrition can help your patients learn about what works and what doesn't work. Let's say that you found a recipe for a delicious and nutritious salad that works great for lunch. Share that information with your patients if you think it's appropriate and could help them. Let's say that you recently went on vacation and you found a yoga technique that you find very helpful. That might be something you want to share with certain patients when appropriate. Sharing personal information with patients can be very helpful in certain situations, but the key is to remember that the focus needs to always be on what's best for that patient. When you share information about yourself with a patient, it shouldn't be focused on us. It should be focused on how this information can help that patient. Of course, some level of conversational talk is inevitable with patients, but remember that our time with each patient is usually very limited, so every minute counts. Sometimes I see healthcare providers spending 5 or 10 minutes telling patients what their kids are doing or about work they might be doing around their house. Of course, there are exceptions, but my recommendation is to keep such sharing to a minimum and to focus your personal sharing on helping patients. For example, if the topic of your children comes up, you can say that taking care of your children makes sticking with a consistent exercise regimen very challenging, and then redirect the conversation to how your patient has been doing with his or her habits. Redirecting the conversation helps keep the conversation focused on where it should be, on the patient. As we discussed way back in Pearl number 1, keep the focus and attention on your patient and use your personal experiences and anecdotes when appropriate to make a point specific to that patient. For example, let's say that your patient mentions that he has trouble remembering to take his pills each day. If appropriate, you might say that you too have that difficulty with your medications and that you find that it's helpful to use a pill box. In this example, you're sharing personal information, but you're also fostering your connection with the patient, and you're giving that patient specific information that could be helpful to him or her. Remember, it's not about you. It's not about us. It's about keeping the conversation and the focus on the patient and what's most important for him or her. When you're meeting with a patient, it's about that patient and keeping the discussion on topic and optimizing every moment that you have with that patient. Let's keep the dialogue going. Let me know what you think of this week's Pearl for Clinical Practice. Post your comments and experiences on the 5-Minute MD Facebook page. You can email me at drmorris@5minutemd.com. That's Morris at 5minutemd.com. You can follow us on Twitter at 5Minute Music, and of course you can visit us anytime on our website 5minutemd.com. Let your friends and your colleagues know about the podcast. Make sure that you are subscribed on iTunes. Thank you so much for listening. This is Dr. Brian Morris, and of course I will see you at the next 5.